to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for this special meeting on January 27th. Thank you so much for attending. I would like to give a special welcome to Jesse Deal from James Marta and Company. And as usual, Lee Coop from School Site Solutions is here. And tonight we have, looks like several members of the public, so welcome all. So as is traditional, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we'll do the roll call. Georgette Portier. She's here, thumbs up. Andrea Kett.
Here.
Okay. Julie Mustard. Looks like absent. Gary Riddle.
The audio. I see Julie there.
Hi, Julie. Sorry. Hi. There you are. Gary Riddle.
Here.
And Robert Sanchez.
Here.
Wow, excellent. Full attendance tonight. Most appreciative. So first item on the agenda is the adoption of our agenda. Any comments from CBOC members? Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda for January 27th.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay, second please from someone.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. Moving on to the minutes. As usual, Rose did a very nice job capturing the minutes from the November 18th meeting. I've looked through it. I don't see any corrections from my end. Committee members, any corrections or notations? Okay, seeing none. Any comments from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, I will take a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve it as presented.
Okay, can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, Gary, thank you. That passed unanimously. Okay. We have nothing for the consent calendar. So now happy to open up for public comment pertaining to items that are not on the agenda. Okay. Brian, do you see anybody? I don't see anybody.
I'm just scrolling down to the phones as well. I'm not seeing anybody. And
Okay. Close public comment and move on to item 3 on our agenda. That is my update. Again, thank you everyone for attending. We have 2 big items on the agenda tonight. First is to hear from Jesse Deal. He is a representative from James Marta accounting firm, and he did the audit of the Measure Q funds. So we will review that tonight. And then we have a very large change order number 8 to go through. In the past week, I've worked with Alex Elliott and Mark Monticello to update some items on our specific website. That is an agenda item, so we can talk about that later. And tonight, as I mentioned, we'll hear from James Marta. This kind of marks the time that this committee will start preparing the report for the fiscal year that ended June of 2020. So I certainly would like to get that done by the May meeting this spring. That is when my term is up as chair. So that would be nice if we could stay on that timeline. That is it for me. So turn it over to Brian, and then we can have public comment on the two updates.
Great. Thank you, Tad, and welcome, Jesse. And I just want to take a moment to introduce to everyone DJ Bowen. DJ is our board member who took his seat in December, and at one of our January meetings. No, we've only had, well, recently, DJ stepped forward as the board's liaison to the oversight committee. So he's going to join us as regularly as he can. So DJ, thank you for being here, sir. You'll get to learn a lot about Measure Q expenditures and all sorts of other things as well. So we appreciate you being here. Just want to touch on John Knight Middle School, because as you'll see with the updates that Lee goes through tonight, we're really not active in other projects in the district right now, other than some closeouts of some DSA projects that remain. So the great news is that over the winter break, we moved all operations from C.A. Jacobs Intermediate School on North Lincoln to the John Knight Middle School campus on at 455 East A Street. So the facility previously known as the old high school. And now it is John Knight Middle School. And hopefully that means that what we've been referring to as the new high school will now just become a high school. 12 years later, 13 years later, we get that transition made. We have moved all office operations in, all the support staff related to the site, custodials, et cetera, are on campus working. We have about half of the teaching staff and a portion of the paraprofessionals and other support staff are working on campus as well. Obviously, we do not have the opportunity to bring students to the campus at this point in time due to the COVID restrictions. We want to make that happen as quickly as we can. So when we look at the project as it's really two separate projects under the eyes of the Division of State Architect. Our first project, which is the campus-wide modernization that we've been dealing with since the start of this, really just has very, very few little items left in it. Some of those are just remaining punch list items, and a couple of them are a little bit more significant. Fire alarm testing, for example, is probably the biggest one that remains to be done. So we are very, very close to having completed all the elements of the contract with Burco, our contractor, for that particular project. The second project related to the campus over there is really the windows and kitchen. So we did go out, if you recall, at a later date to get those done. The windows are almost completely done. At this point in time, we have a little bit of window work on the gym and on the music building. But everything else, A, B, and C wings, for those who know the campus, are all done, and we are in good shape with those. The work in the kitchen really is much more extensive than what we anticipated at the front end. Of course, that always seems to happen, but we are moving along in that effort. Should we be able to get our students on campus before the kitchen is done, which is a possibility, we will be able to provide lunch service regardless. So those arrangements, that planning is already underway, and we'll be able to feed students should the need arise, even though that kitchen isn't finished. So we'll be getting a schedule update on that in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be able to share that with you at our next meeting. So I will leave it at that. good news that we are transitioning into that campus after all this work. So thank you guys for your support with it.
Very good. Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions or comments from committee members?
I've talked to a couple teachers and they are very happy with their classrooms over there. So it's a good thing.
Yes, we're getting good reviews from those who are working there already. Yeah.
No, any other comments from committee members? Seeing none. Okay, public comments for either me or superintendent. Okay, I don't see any.
Nor do I.
Okay. Then we will move on to the next item, and that is to hear from Jesse Dio of James Martin and Company regarding the Measure Q bond audit report. Thank you, Jesse, for showing up tonight. And for me, this will be a review because I heard you last Thursday.
All right. I'm going to try to share my screen. It looks like I do not have the host capability yet.
Let me get that going for you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You should be good now.
All right.
Yep.
Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the Measure Q financial and performance audit results as of June 30th, 2020. I'm not going to get into the background. You guys know that we've passed a bond a few years back and we've been spending the proceeds. In regards to the financial audit piece, so there's two components. There's a financial and performance audit. The financial audit is where the auditor has to basically attest and opine that the financial statements are fairly stated. And also there's an internal control report that we issue as well. And so I'm going to be sharing those results with you just in a moment. There were two series, Series A and B, for a total of $30,400,000. Part of the audit process, we were to ensure that the funds, when they were released in Series A and B, were booked in the proper account code structure. And so there were no issues noted there. Now focusing on the balance sheet as of June 30th, 2020, you'll see that we finished with total assets of $17.9 million. And so you can see majority of that is wrapped up in cash and cash equivalents. And then you have some accounts payable, which is basically outstanding invoices as of June 30th. So they have been paid subsequently. And then you'll see the restricted amount for Measure Q bond projects at $16,942,323. How we got there is on the next slide. This is the income statement, if you will. You'll see at the top, we have revenues. Now this is the interest earned on the unspent funds. So we earned $455,966.
So Jesse, my question on there is you've got two different revenue numbers.
Yeah, I think I have a hidden column. I'll have to go look and see what that is, but majority of the revenue is from interest earned on that revenue. So I'll get back to you and let you know what that other item was.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
So for the two bond issues, do you track those two bond issues separately or you view them as just one entity?
It's one because it's one measure. So there's basically, if there was a different measure, it would have to be tracked separately from the original measure. So the Series A and B would get a deposit in the same resource code.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll see on the total expenditures, we have $9.4 million of total expenditures. You'll see a majority of that is wrapped up in capital outlay, and that's what you expect. We did verify, and this is a part of the performance piece, that these salaries and benefits are coded for the efforts towards the bond projects. So that's one of the things that we do as a part of the scope of the performance piece. We started with almost 9 million, and then we ended with 16.9 million. Now, the performance piece is more in line with what the bond text is. So we basically look at about 85% of all of the bond expenditures, and we compare it to the bond measure language, and we ensure that all of those items were spent in accordance to the bond text. And so one of the things that we do, we look to see if they're coded correctly, that they're tracking it separately from all the other expenditures. And then we look at the expenditures from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So we're only looking at 1 year. And then we're including any payroll related expenditures to make sure that they are reasonable. And so, as I mentioned earlier, our methodology is to basically get 85% coverage. And so we want to give you as much peace of mind as possible so you know that the district is spending the money in accordance with the bond measure text. So we selected the majority of the expenditures. We verify the mathematical accuracy. We ensured that the expenditures were in line with the bond measure text. We did already have an understanding of the internal control structure. And then we traced the expenditures to the source documents. If there were any new bids, we looked at the bidding process to ensure there was no related party conflict of interest. And then if there were any change orders, we looked at those to see if they were reasonable. And as I mentioned before, we did look at the payroll and to make sure that it was all approved and within the bond projects. And so I am pleased to conclude that we did not have any issues. So the performance audit, I did want to conclude that the performance audit went as planned. There were no findings whatsoever. And then along with the audit report, which I started off with, we did issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statement. So they were fairly stated as of 6/30/2020. And then the other communication that we had was an internal control report. So we didn't have any deficiencies noted. So no control deficiencies, no significant deficiencies, and no materials. So this is from a Citizens Oversight Committee. This is what you want to hear from a bond financial and performance audit. It's a clean audit all the way through. And then if there were any issues, we would have communicated to you. There is a separate communication, which is a communication with those charged with governance. And that basically shows you the scope of the audit, if there were any disagreements, any issues, any audit adjustments, and there were none. And so no news was good news in this regard. And so with that, just want to conclude again, the district had a clean audit all the way through. The district did spend the funds in accordance with the provisions of Measure Q. And we just wanted to thank Monique, Rose, and district staff for their efforts with the audit process. And I'll just leave it up to you guys for any questions.
So how did COVID change your review process? I know in the past, one of the representatives from James Mart actually showed up at the school district offices. Yes. How do you do that in COVID era? So
we did have additional inquiries that we performed, and then we set up, it's sort of like Zoom. We have a similar type, it's called Moxtra, and basically we did a lot of video conferencing, but as far as the documents, they were actually uploaded on our secure portal called SureLink. I think you guys are familiar with that. That's where we exchange any drafts. And so we have a separate SureLink request list. And then basically all the samples that we needed, we asked for all the information there. And then we just communicated through there and then set up Moxtra meetings, which are basically like Zoom meetings to talk to individuals at the districts. So that's basically how we had to work around with the issues of the pandemic caused for us. So we use a lot of technology, basically.
Okay, and I see your colleague is no longer working. Last year it was Mario DaCosta, if I remember.
Yes.
So he's not good.
Yeah, he left the firm on effective December 15th. So he left public accounting.
Okay, so that's why there was no response to Gary's email, because he directed that to Mr. DaCosta.
Yes, and I just was apprised of that. I think a couple of days ago. It was forwarded to me, and it looked like Gary sent an email to Mario on December 11th, and so I apologize for not knowing about it and finding out later. Had we had known about that email before December 7th, because that's when we issued the report. If management directed us to, we would have updated the language according to what you guys brought up. Because, and I talked to Brian about this too, management is responsible for the audit report. We are just going to opine on it and basically talk about the fairness of the financials and then any compliance issues. So the language that Mr. Riddle did bring up, totally doable. I've already made a note for this next year. So we'll, as long as Superintendent Dolan approves of it, we're going to go ahead and make those changes. So.
Okay, excellent. I got a couple more questions. Roughly, how much time did James Martin Company spend on the Dixon Unified School District audit? And did that increase from past years or decrease with the COVID issue?
So I think when you asked me a similar question last week, I was only talking about the bond audit, and it was between 75 and 80 hours. The district audit, I want to say it's between 250 and 300 hours. And with the issues with the pandemic, it did increase the hours. We had a lot more time with the meetings, the electronic meetings with Moxtra. It took a little bit longer to get the items just because we're exchanging it electronically. And so it did put a strain on us, but nonetheless, it wasn't an issue. It was something that we anticipated was going to happen. I mean, we're all in the same boat. And so, but it wasn't anything that we couldn't handle, basically. We already had invested in this technology and we were using it. It just, now we were using it with every client, every situation, throughout the entire year ever since we had the shutdown orders.
Okay, and just my last question is kind of a general one. How does Dixon Unified compare to other school districts that James Martin Company audits for these sorts of Measure Key funds?
Do you have specifics on what? Are you talking about, like, if there's any findings or?
Well, I think Mario mentioned you might do like 25 school districts, if I remember from last year, something like that.
Okay.
So is Dixon doing really well? Are they doing really bad? You basically gave us a clean audit. So do most of the school districts have a clean audit? So how do we compare? Okay,
so right now we have a little over 30, I think about 33 LEAs that we audit. And I want to say of those 33, I want to say maybe 15 of them have had clean audits. You guys, in this, I think this year we had a finding with a district audit, and it's not a big deal. It's sort of expected when you have the pandemic as the issue, because it was a timeliness of deposits. Again, we looked at subsequently, did the deposit actually make it to the bank, and it did. So that's why it's not a huge ordeal. But other than that, the district was in compliance with everything, but when you're focusing on the Measure Q, that's a clean audit. And so, you know, not everybody is on the same page in that regard. I mean, you guys have a dedicated management team. You guys have checks and balances in place. When there's an issue that we've communicated to the management, they were very receptive. They implemented. I mean, if you look at the audit, the very first audit that we had a few years back, there were some findings there. And I talked to Superintendent Dolan, and he was on board, and they took action. And so when we have other issues, they're new issues. They're not repeat issues. And if that was the case, and one of the things that the auditor is charged with is to then go to the governance, the governing body, and then report to the board and let them know what's going on, right? So we haven't had to have those type of difficult conversations, because just at the management level, they're very proactive. They ask for solutions. They've actually had us come in and do other special trainings on like ASB, for example. And so, you know, I would say Dixon is actually way up there. They have the right people, and they're always looking for ways to improve. So that's what I have to say there.
Thank you. That's really good news to hear. And I think that's important that people understand that. So I'm done with my questions. I'll turn it over to other committee members if they have any questions.
Have we received the final report? Because all we saw was the draft.
So
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. So the final was on the board agenda for the district last week, and Jesse did that presentation just like tonight, and then it was with your agenda. So we didn't distribute those until these agendas came out to either you or the board.
Yeah, so it's in the link on tonight's agenda is
Yes.
the final version, and I'll have to get that posted to our website, because the one that's there right now is the draft version. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, but there were no changes between draft and final, were there?
just
No,
a few date changes that were left blank in the draft.
Right.
that's it. Yep.
No more hard copy reports?
We can provide one for you if you'd like, Gary. Yeah, once upon a time we would.
I think the committee should have a hard copy of this report.
Okay.
We've got for each year, we need to have it.
Certainly doable.
I got a bunch of hard copies, Gary. If you want me to drop one off, I can do it tomorrow.
No hurry, but I
Okay.
just,
So, but that revenue number, was corrected on the final copy?
Yes. Let me pull it up. Just give me one moment. Because that's just a summary snapshot. I think when I was putting it in the PowerPoint, I accidentally hid a row.
Okay, because
So
the draft report that I looked at too, it has it the same way.
Does it? Okay.
But that was the draft, so.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah,
trying to look.
looks like the final report has that $2,000 discrepancy as well. So
Okay, then I need to unhide it and resend it to you guys. So I apologize for that oversight.
no problem. In the scheme of things, it's always nice to get almost $500,000 in interest.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll get that over to you guys tonight. I'll just copy Tad you on the email when I send it to Superintendent Dolan. And then if you guys have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, I'll send it out to committee members, no worries.
Okay.
All right, members of the public, any questions for Mr. Deal? I don't see any.
I'm not seeing any either.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Deal before you get to enjoy your evening? Hey, thanks so much. I actually look forward to hearing from James Martin and Company each year. So again, we appreciate it.
No worries. Anytime.
Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome. You guys
Take
have a
care.
good night. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
And now we'll welcome Lee Coop to our citizen
Tab,
partner.
sorry to interrupt you. If the committee wishes to approve the audit report.
Yes, it is an action item. So thank you, Superintendent. So this is an action item. So I will make a motion to approve this audit report from James Marta and Company. I have someone second.
A second.
Approved with the
Motion.
noted correction, correct?
Yes. Okay, so Robert did for the first one. I need a second. And we'll vote.
Second,
Andrea seconded it. So we have a motion on the table to approve this audit report with the correction. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nobody? Okay, that one passed unanimously. Thank you for the reminder, Superintendent. So now we're ready to move on. Lee Coop.
Thank you, Chairman Smith and Superintendent Dolan, members of the CBOC and members of the public. My name is Lee Coop. I work with School Site Solutions, Inc., and we assist the school district with their facilities program. One of the things that we do is help out with the budget and expenditure reports to the CBOC so that you folks can understand what's being spent and how much money we have and where it's going and what projects we're working on. So tonight we have the typical, the regular reports, which are a nice template for people to get used to. And these are action items as well, all of these. The first one is the master program budget. That is a letter orientation. And it says master program budget on the top. So this provides a comprehensive look for everything that Measure Q has done and everything that we project it to do, including revenues, and also includes other revenue sources, which is what was just discussed, including interest. We also have on the revenue on the top part, any projected and received state funding for facility projects. You can see on the top of the page, it hasn't really changed. There's about $38 million total in the Measure Q program, including the other sources of funds. As we've discussed before, it includes two projected and anticipated state funding amounts. One is the 3.37 million that will be coming, and we do expect it, and we are in line for it for JKMS. And Chris DeLong, the
Uh-oh.
The perils of, here you go. You were you froze, Lee, just as you were starting to talk about Chris.
Okay, can you hear me now? Am I good now? Sorry, yeah, it does say my internet connection is unstable. So, okay, so the funding for the state is anticipated, and it's in right now for two projects, and there are two projects that would be eligible for state modernization funding because of the age of the projects. So the John Knight Middle School is about almost 3.4 million, 3.37, anticipated in the years 22, 23. And we're still pegging it for that year, but it really is an unknown with between COVID and the fact that the state bond did not pass in March of 2020. But we still have that because we are in that amount of money. We're included in the money that's already there but it just needs to be issued. And the state issues it, it doles it out over time because of the debt limits and how much debt the state wants to take on. And so school funding, school bonds are a part of the state debt. And so it takes over time to get that. But we do anticipate that. We've been approved and it will come. We're pretty sure of that. This next one is Anderson, and that's way out there, 2027, 28. Krista Long has projected it for way out there because of the application and the line and the process that the state goes through. The other part of that is that we will apply for Anderson when it hits that eligibility time. It hasn't hit it quite yet, but we're getting close. And that's when the Anderson becomes 25 years old. And I say that may sound funny because Anderson's a lot older than 25 years old, but that was when the last state modernization project happened. So the clock starts over at that point. So since the last state modernization project and when we got state funding, when the district got state funding, it will turn 25 and that's when the application will go in. And that allows for a lot more money to be sitting there, the 2.8 million. Otherwise, it's less than $1 million if we went for it right now, and we don't want to do that. So that's the revenue side, 38.2 million. Then you come down to the projects, the expenditures, and it goes by projects, and you can see they're color coded, whether they're complete, whether they're active or future. Then we have program costs and we have contingencies in different categories. And really it's humming along with JKMS. It's changed from last month with the expenditures there, which would be normal as we have an active construction project. And then with Anderson, we have it split into 2 phases like we always have before. And basically the bottom line of all this is what we spend at JKMS and what we don't, we spend it there. And then whatever we have left, we'll go for other projects, including Tremont and Anderson. So we're always trying to hold that balance between spending at JKMS, which can suck up the money because it's an old school and it can take a lot of good improvements. And we've done a tremendous amount of improvements there. And the balance between that and then the other projects, which were part of Measure Q. So we want to keep holding that line, and you can see it's about 5.6 million. We're thinking for the phase 1 that is dependent on that state funding coming in, and then about 2.75, but plus whatever we have in savings, if we have any savings from JKMS and any inflation, and the inflation down toward the bottom will go toward Anderson. That's 1.3 million. So you can kind of think of phase 1 as about 5.5 million total project, and phase 2 right now, if you add the inflation in, at about 4 million. So that would be the Anderson project. We have also the Tremont, the 2 Tremont projects, the security, which Brian talked about last time about changing that to instead of a large project at the administration, changing the fencing and gates for secure entrance. And that was the purpose of that. And then we have a retaining wall. So those are the projects. You see, I've kept it at a remaining balance. What you want to see is a remaining balance that's above 0. And we'll take that down to as close as possible as we get farther along into Anderson. So you'll see those numbers go down as those projects get refined. Any questions on this comprehensive? What we have later, of course, are the individual active projects.
Okay, committee members, any questions on this overview? Okay,
Nope.
we're all fairly familiar with that. Georgette, do you have something?
Sorry, I said no.
Okay, all right. So any comments from members of the public on this overview? Okay, I don't see any. Okay, Lee, you can move on.
And Brian, I guess I would, and Tad, I would say, if you wanted to take all these financial reports, budget and expenditure reports in one action item, you could do that.
We will do that.
Okay.
That's how they're on the agenda. So,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Next one is we have program expenses, and that is, it says at the top, Dixon Unified Facility Program. And the only changes on that, there's one change on that of any note, and that is on the first page, section 200. I've put it in blue, and we have DSA plan check fees, and you go over and expensed was $1,000. And that has to do with the DSA legacy closeouts. So those legacy closeouts, the very first thing that you get is a $500 bill from DSA, from the Division of the State Architect, to open that project up. So those continue on, and they billed us for 2 projects, and the district paid for that. Then you have the typical bond-related staff costs, which are a few thousand on a monthly basis. And that's was also referred to in the audit as appropriate staff expenditures, all related to bond, mostly roads. And I believe those are the only 2 changes in this report from last time. But anytime there's a change, no matter how minute, I will include a report for you guys.
Okay, real quick, under section 300, all consultants, there's a code SSS, and then I think that refers to legal services. You got a total cost of $60,000. Then page 4 on this summary, you got a highlighted box in black, and you have legal at $120,000.
Mhm.
So I'm a little confused. You might get to that, but that was my question on this.
So the on the very last page, those are budgets.
Okay.
And not expended already. So if you're talking about legal, what's been expended to date is about $48,000.
Okay.
And
Okay,
SSS,
unusual.
the
Okay.
that's School Site Solutions Incorporated. Right?
SSS is
Okay.
solutions.
Okay.
That's a different line. Yeah. Oh, and I should say there's money, that's money for me to do what we're doing right now.
Okay.
That is also whatever was spent on that. You would see that change expenditure from last report 2 months ago.
All right. So what was the legal expenditures? What did that pertain to?
There aren't any new ones. They have to do with anything that we need to have the attorney review. So in the past, they've had to do with them approving bid documents, assisting the district with developing bid documents, assisting the district in developing any kind of legal issues or legal documents. I've worked with them on the furniture purchases and to make sure that various provisions in that were correct. And so whenever we have any kind of legal thing that pertains to the entire program, which the furniture stuff would, actually that would go with JKMS, but any kind of overall program wide, usually it's a lot around bids, and we will see some a little bit with architect agreement in program for our Anderson. Mostly that will occur in Anderson. But you'll see it in if there's any claims, any problems with change orders, things like that, any problems with closeout documents. So those would be sort of the general things. And this is a very low number actually for legal assistance for over 3 years time, 5 years time that we've been in it so far.
Thank you.
Okay. Should I go on?
Are you done with the 4-page summary there, or?
I am done with that.
All right.
And I would entertain any questions on it.
Okay, committee members, any questions on that? Okay, members of the public, any questions? Okay.
All right. John Knight Middle School renovation project. Obviously, this is where all the action is.
Yes.
You can see the expenditures keep rolling on, and as we complete the project and really come down towards the end of the two projects there, like Brian talked about, we're very excited about that. Besides the financial, I want to just tell you guys that there was so much activity happening with myself and the staff and on furniture. All the new furniture came in starting November 30th over a 2-week time from the two vendors that you've seen, the School Specialty and Campbell Keller. Then, and that's a lot of coordination. And then once the holiday, the winter break started on December 21st and 22nd, there was a major, action of 2-day move with Valley Relocation from C.A. Jacobs over to JKMS. And that's a major activity. The school staff, particularly Principal O'Connor, Assistant Principal Stuvey, I mean, all of the staff, they were really, really great. The teachers were great as far as packing up, labeling the boxes, doing what they needed to do. And that's a lot of work, just a lot of work. So I just want to commend the teachers, the staff, the custodians, the administrative staff there. They were awesome. And the move was very smooth. That doesn't always happen, but it went very smoothly. So I just want to commend the district for that, particularly the JKMS staff. They were wonderful. Made the job very easy to do. So that happened also. So a flurry of activity while there's winter break, but and it was really cold and foggy. One day we couldn't even see anything, and there was fog, and it was pretty crazy that day. But Valley Relocation, I just actually did a letter of recommendation for them for this because they asked. They're a really good firm, and the district really got their money's worth, I believe, from that firm. So then we also have a lot of additional kind of furniture requests that we know about as we settle into the school. I say we because I feel very connected to it, but as the staff gets settled into the school, there's additional furniture requests, which we know will happen. So you will see some additional furniture requests that, but right now it stays within the authorization that both you and the board gave. So I did want to talk about that activity. And as Superintendent Dolan talked about, the operations folks are moved in, and it's just an interesting site to be on. I just commend them for what they're doing. They're great. Okay, so expenditures, and thank you for letting me sort of talk about that. Expenditures on this mostly have to do with Burco, the general contractor. And you can see where they are originally, 10.9 million on their contract. Now with change order 8, that's at 15.6, and they have been paid about 13.3 million. So we are coming down to the ending payments on for them. Then you have, of course, the kitchen and window project is broken out separately because that was a separate bid. And so you see that separately. And we're just starting to get invoices on that project. So I think other things of note, probably just change order 8 has been added. And otherwise, very little other things happening there besides just the regular rolling on of general contractor, doing the work, getting paid. Nothing out of the ordinary. I would just also say, of course, Jim Babachi, my colleague at School Site Solutions, his work in here is also included, of course. And any of my work that has to do with the furniture, that's under School Site Solutions. Architect was paid as well, and inspector. So pretty typical payments.
So
Ms. Lee, just, oh,
Go ahead, Georgia.
Paper, rock, scissors.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, so the furniture, they haven't invoiced you guys for that yet?
They haven't invoiced us yet, no. So that is happening. They're getting all of that. It's a pretty major invoice, and I believe, well, they have to, I've gotten the Campbell Keller invoice for the library review. I'm reviewing that, and at least the school specialty invoice has not come to me yet for review. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
So it will be coming.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can imagine.
Sorry, it takes time to unmute. So really quick, Ms. Lee, I see charges from the California Water Service. That's the fee, utility fee or connection fee or whatnot.
Yeah, that was from last
Um,
time. Same
Okay,
from last time. Yeah.
all right. And then additional plan check fees. And I'm sorry, I'm just comparing between November's what additional charges we got hit or anything
We
new.
haven't gotten hit with any additional charges, but sometimes I update the budget. And Georgette, that's actually a really good point. On the DSA plan check fee, they their fees are based on a percentage of what the cost of the project was, the
Right.
general contractor. So we, I had in the past upped that figure, that budget, because we anticipate, of course, a larger ending fee than what was anticipated prior.
Okay. Let's see. So
While Georgette is looking on that Cal Water, did they break out how much the construction cost was versus a fee, or was it all just in one item?
I'm not sure. I didn't see the invoice myself.
Yeah, my understanding on that, Tad, is still, well, first off, they owe us some money.
Mhm.
We paid, I think it was $66,000 back in the day, with the understanding that that would be in excess of the total costs. And so I know Jim, I think it was last week, mentioned to me his efforts to get that resolved. And so we will see that money come back into our coffers. And there were two components to it, if I remember correctly. One was the actual work that would be done by their contractor. And then there were some administrative costs related to permitting plans, et cetera.
But no public utility commission fees or something like that?
No.
Thank you.
We avoided those. There was some talk about some permitting required, and the team, Burko and Jim, did a really good job of navigating those
Excellent.
water.
That could have been really expensive.
Yes, and delaying. Could have really extended the project as well.
And then Lee, this is probably an old item, but under all consultants 300, there's something, Marta to transfer to GF. What is that?
Right. So, and I show this on here, and this is a Monique issue, an accounting business services division issue. The audit cost cannot be paid out of the bond. So any cost of James Marta and Associates needs to come out and be paid by general fund. That's the law.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just kind of nudge and say, this needs to be transferred out. And then when it gets transferred out, I take it out and put a negative there. I did want to also just comment one other really interesting, well, to me, we, part of the move, the small details of the move, you'll see on the bottom of page 1, section 300, Aurora Environmental. And Aurora helps this district with their inventory and disposal of chemicals at the high school. And they also do other types of reports like asbestos reports for the maintenance department that are required by law, and a number of other environmental related regulatory required things. We tapped them for assistance with disposal and move of the chemicals in the science storeroom. at CA Jacobs. And we needed to properly dispose of old ones and also relocate and put in the right place into JKMS. And so they came out one day, took the inventory, we got the quote, and then it was just a one day, took a few hours process. They did a really great job. And now the principal knows where they are and where they will be in a permanent thing. And they're in the science storeroom now. So mostly that's what's called kitchen chemicals at the middle school level, not a whole lot of hazardous chemicals at all. But that also happened.
And then what about the scope increase for Schneider? What was that about? Did we already discuss that previously?
Yeah, that's not anything new. Nothing, they're not doing any more work. They did Prop 39 energy work several years ago.
Okay, it's just, I guess, am I comparing? I'm comparing the November 2019 summary you've given us. And so I need numbers that I see changing. That's what I'm trying to ask.
I probably,
What it is.
I think, Georgette, you and I noted that even last year that the budget and final and expenditures numbers didn't match. So we just matched it up. They've been final paid and they have no more work. And that was what they charged the district. So I just matched it up now.
Okay, got it. And then I remember Fletcher. What about the materials for Tremco that's just now being added there? Is that what it is?
No, that's an old one as well. That is roofing materials. So if you recall, when we did major new roofing besides building A, and we did it as part of this project, we did a change order with Burco, but we broke out and paid for separately. I say we, I mean the district paid for separately the materials, because Jim was able to get a substantial savings on that, doing that instead of going through Burco. So that Tremco is the roofing materials.
Okay.
Lee, just a general question. You mentioned that James Marta fee being pulled out of the Measure Q funds. Seems that just about every meeting as we go through this, you catch stuff, we catch stuff, and we get it corrected, and we do a really nice job of making sure that Measure Q funds are only spent on items pertinent to Measure Q. Do you capture any of those little glitches and tally up how much money this process, this review has saved us in the Measure Q funds?
Let's see. Well, let's see. The process itself, doing all these reports, and then actually the James Marta thing is almost like the only thing that I can actually remember that accidentally got in here into Measure Q, and obviously the district says, well, of course it's Measure Q. It's a performance audit for Measure Q. So it makes sense that they would put it into Measure Q, but this happened a couple times last year too. So that really, Tad, otherwise I would agree with the audit person. I mean, it's really clean. So I'm not sure if they're saving.
Well, for an example, there was a contract issued to an electrical contractor to do work both on Measure Q stuff and the farm. And we had to go in and pull out the farm stuff so it didn't get put on Measure Q. So just little glitches like that, but we probably ought to do a nice job of capturing that, because citizens would be interested in the fact that this review catches a lot of little things. I mean, this was $2,500 that work on the electrical system at the farm. That was probably about $1,000. And over a year, those little things add up. So it might be worth just noting that.
Okay.
And people oftentimes say, well, what good do you guys do? Well, this review process catches stuff. And I'm sure as you go through and do these Excel spreadsheets, you catch stuff and it never even shows up on the spreadsheets.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I would say, I guess, yes, we could definitely note those. And I can look back, and those probably the ones, there may be some other ones, but that is pretty much what we consider to be our normal day-to-day due diligence work. If we weren't catching those things, we wouldn't be doing our jobs. So you're correct in there's so many levels of compliance and review. And what I do is largely this Measure Q, is it compliant with Measure Q and catching things on expenditure reports? Jim is out in the field daily, saving the district money. I mean, by the hour, because that's his job. So those are hard to capture, Tad, because that's sort of in the everyday negotiating change orders, things like that. But I can certainly note down the things that we see to make sure that the district's in compliance, and is and helps allow them, along with the accounting and business services department, doing their great job, allows them to get that audit. So yes, we can, I guess the long answer to that is yes, we could note those.
Yeah, because that's always interesting to put in reports to the citizens, because, you know, things like that should be highlighted, because we spend a lot of time going over these summaries.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, will do.
And then Ms. Lee, I just have more comments for the JKMS. Can you take me down to the contingencies 900?
Mhm.
And explain again where change order number 2 funding is coming from, if it's not coming from the contingency line item? And also, why is 8 less than what it's expected to be? I'm just confused with
Right.
the other. Go
Right.
ahead.
Yes, and I'm looking, actually, Georgette, you're right. I'm looking for change order number 2. I put it into the increased budget. So it's under increased budget and not contingency. So those contingencies down below in that section is if if you can think of that contingency as a percentage amount that's sitting there for what we would call errors and omissions, changes in plans, things like that that are caught. Then the other category are district requested items and unforeseen items. And the other thing is if we actually ask for a scope increase. So not to make this too layered, but those contingencies I really look at, and Tad, this might be one of the areas of review that happens, is taking a really hard look at if we have a construction contingency that's 15% of Burco's number, right? 15% of their contract is considered pretty good for a contingency of what we would call the change orders, right? However, on this project and on every project, you also look at, well, did the scope actually increase? It's not an issue of the plans were wrong, found a mistake on the plans, or an unforeseen condition. It actually was a request for more work to be done. That I don't take out of contingencies. And the roofing, Georgette, to your question, the roofing is a scope increase and not a contingency. So I don't take it out of contingency. It came out of the budget. It increased the budget. And that would be at the top of the page with Burco.
Okay, and
that's why it appears, in other words, we budgeted for it by taking money from Measure Q reserve and putting it into JKMS. We increased the budget because this was an item. We decided, well, the roofing shouldn't just be done on building A. It actually, in the inspection, that it needs to be done on all the buildings. So that was actually a scope increase. It's not counted as, shall we say, an error. It's actually a decision that was made to do more work. So it's not actually counted in the contingencies. I guess I would go to the last page and you actually see all the change orders. So you can actually see in that capture of all the changes that would be occurring on this project. And whether it's from contingency or it's considered a scope increase. So that's the answer on one. The other one is on change order number 8. There were some items that you see it's on the contingency, 808,000 were, if you look at change order 8, you can kind of count down and add up all the areas of unforeseen conditions. And then you take a look at anything that's district directed or district requested, that's actually a scope increase. So I divided it up. So partially you see it under contingency and partially you see it's going to be a budget increase. And in fact, if you go down to the bottom, what we've had to do this time for the first time is say, oops, we used up all the contingency and we're now digging into increasing budget. So that's where we are on that project. If that makes sense. It's kind of layered and complex, but we're at a point toward the end of this project now where we've used the contingency, what I would consider to be any kind of unforeseen conditions, anything like that. And now we're going over that. And in fact, change order 9, you'll see an increase in budget even more on that. So all along, you know, we've increased the budget on this project, right? Because we've added areas of work, and that's been explained the whole way through, that we added many different areas of work, significantly the window and kitchen project. Roofing is another big ticket one. So to make this project into a that was a photo bomb, Tad. To make it into a successful project, the team determined we needed to add more items into this project that had been cut out before. I don't know whether that explains it or not, but that's where we are on the project.
I mean, I kind of get what you're saying. So what's change order number 9?
You don't see it yet because it hasn't yet. Yeah, it'll be
okay.
hoping
It's not
to
here.
the final closeout.
Final.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you know, under contingencies, you have a line item for specialty contractors for 166K. I only see 2 for Western Exterminator and Edco. Am I missing other? Is that what that was for? Am I missing something else?
No, Georgette, that's been there for so long. I'd have to go back and look to see what I counted in specialty, but you are looking in the right place. It's in those, if you look at section 500, all the Burco things are in yellow. And then if you look down and you start to see what other contractors that were used at the beginning, yes, so there was an addition of 166. So I'd have to go back and look to see what I included in that.
I got you. So they're the non-Burco contractors.
Correct.
Ah, okay. I'm okay now.
Okay, great. So I guess the major thing is we are, you know, we're at a $23 million, $23.6 million project now. And we'll probably be a little bit higher than that at the end. But that's where we're going to land on this.
Hey, any committee member questions on John Knight Middle School renovation project spreadsheet?
I do really quick. So if I go back to your main summary, if I'm looking at the DMC, I'm sorry, the JKMS renovation and window and kitchen. So with change order number 9 or whatever else is coming up, is that still going to be within the current budget of 23 mil? I can't see the whole number.
No,
Or is there going to be?
There'll be
go
more.
ahead.
Yeah, it'll be higher because that will, as you can see, that matches up with the project, the total budget on page 3. is 23,617,362. And that matches up with the
Oh, it doesn't include, so you're gonna revise this to bump up your budget for JKMS.
change 9. Yeah, change order 9. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, and of course, the implication that being of affecting Anderson. Yes, and Tremont.
What's your gut feeling on change order number 9? What are we gonna see? 1,000,000, 500K?
Brian, I don't know. I don't have any, I don't have.
Primary, we're still waiting for some numbers, Georgette. The primary component in that change order is going to be some lighting switch out. As we just got to the tail end of the project, discovered that many of the bulbs and ballasts in the existing light units, which we were trying to just continue to use and not replace, are increasingly unavailable. And so the long-term maintenance and upkeep of the lighting would be really problematic. So that is the biggest component of that change order, but we are waiting to see a price still. They're getting some individual units to make sure that they'll work. And the lights that we can retrofit, we're going to retrofit, but some will have to be replaced with new devices.
So I recall earlier early in the process for the JKMS, there were some energy grants, and I don't know if Schneider was one of them, that we were going to do lighting replacement. It was going to cover part of that. Was it only partial? Did we not assess the entire campus or all the
Actually,
buildings?
the Prop 39 work that Schneider did at JK was HVAC work. The lighting that came out of Prop 39 was primarily at Dixon High, both redoing gym lighting and external lighting. So I don't remember to what degree any lighting at JK was Schneider. I don't think it was, if it was any, it was not much.
Okay.
The superintendent, you mentioned lighting and the ballasts. Are those like the old-fashioned fluorescent
Yeah.
lights?
They're old, yeah. Old ones.
Yeah, no one's using those old T12 bulbs anymore. They're all
Yeah.
LED or T5 now.
Yeah. So, it's a good example of something we were trying to not incur the additional cost. And then as you went through it, discovered, well, that's just not going to work. So we'll have that proposal for our review here, hopefully next week. It could be the week after that.
So I got a follow-up question for lighting then. Isn't it required for permitting under Title 24 to update lighting? Is that
Well,
not the case?
I believe that whatever the architect put in to Division of the State Architect passed their
Okay.
Title 24. It might have been because it was a modernization project, Georgette, and not a new project. They get some leeway on that. It could have been if they said if they touched the lighting, then they had to, revamp the entire campus. And maybe that was part of the reason why it didn't happen at the time.
Okay.
So that may be it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And that's what I have on that report.
Any other committee member questions for Lee? Okay. I'll open up to the public if anyone has questions for Lee Coop on John Knight Middle School renovation project. Okay, I don't see any. So Lee, let's move on.
Okay, so we have Anderson Phase 1. The only thing that happened was if you look on page 2, section 300, under all consultants, go down to the very last line, other consultant costs, Hancock, Park, and DeLong. DeLong's cut off. There was $43.75 billed to Anderson. So that is the change. And that is them working on, again, state funding issues. And that's the only change on Anderson. Now, next time you will start to see some changes on Anderson, because by that time we will be delving into architect agreement, things like that. So we'll be populating this sheet with a lot more information, and that will be ongoing over the next several months. But for right now, it's just $43.75 change. And that's it for Anderson.
Okay,
No other activity on any other projects.
okay, that probably won't trigger any questions, but I will open it up nonetheless. Okay, very good. So I think this wraps up the budget expenditure reports. And
Yes.
This is an action item. So I would like to get a motion to approve these budget and expenditure reports as valid measure Q items.
Andrea, I so move.
Okay, I need a second, please.
I second, as presented.
So we are now voting on approving these budget expenditure reports as valid measure Q items as presented by Lee Coop. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think it passed unanimously. Yes. Very good, Lee. Thank you so much. So we can now move on to district vendor payment history report, which is for information only.
Right, thank you. So as per the request of the CBOC, we provide the vendor payment history report as provided by the district. This is by vendor, and I think that's requested, and it's for information only. So I think Georgette uses it to compare and contrast and reconcile on her investigations on that and her reporting. And as do other committee members, can see what's been spent and encumbered. And it's for information only.
Yes. Can you refresh my memory on the River City Bank costs as reported here? What's that about?
River City Bank, I think, is the escrow account. Is that right? Yeah. So the retention payment of 5% every month is diverted to and paid. The district pays 2 checks every month. Every progress payment for Burco. One is to Burco for 95%, and 5% is the retention payment that goes into an escrow account at River City Bank. The reason it goes into an escrow account is because Burco requested it to go to, and that means they get the interest off of it. And that's an interesting thing that happens that in law that allowed the contractors to accrue the interest instead of the district. Because normally we would keep, I say we, the district would keep the 5% and accrue interest on it.
Okay, interesting. Huh. Not getting much interest these days anywhere.
But we would take anything,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So yeah, we like interest.
Okay, that was the only thing that caught my eye that I didn't quite understand. Committee members, any questions on this summary?
I had a question last time. I wanted, I think Miss Monique was going to confirm if the July items get rolled over from last year, from the previous fiscal year.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question for Monique because she can talk with you about the rollover between fiscal years. So I guess I would still, Brian, maybe if you could let Monique know that that's a question still.
Monique is in the meeting. Monique, do you mind
Monique's in the meeting? Okay.
touching on that for a moment if you can? Thank you.
Hi. I think what might be good, because I remember that question, but I don't want to take all the time to get the details. Maybe Georgette, we can set aside some time and I can fully understand your question and be able to answer it. Would that work?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you, I don't know if you want to send me an email or I can email you. I'm not even sure if I have your email address, but
I'll email you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Monique.
Okay, any other committee member questions on this? Okay, seeing none, public comments or questions on this summary report? Okay, seeing none, this was information only, so we are able to move on to the next item, and that would be the district fiscal report 03.
Right, and this is information only. Of course, this is the source document for my reports. And so that is also provided to you for information.
I have no questions on this, Georgette.
Not yet until I look at it all like
Okay.
in detail. I think I'm good for now.
Okay, any other committee member questions on this? Public concerns, questions, comments? Seeing none, Lee, let's move on to the Measure Q summary timeline.
Thank you. We have the summary timeline that gets presented to you every meeting. And I don't believe it's changed from November. I can't be sure. I'm thinking it hasn't changed. Basically, what you see are the complete projects versus the things under construction. And you see under Tremont, administration reconfiguration, reviewing the downscoping options, which is what we've talked about before as far as doing security fencing. And that would downscope it. And then the retaining wall is a future project. And that would be occurring in a summertime. And then you have, we have Anderson, and as we get into Anderson, we'll be seriously looking at schedule, but for right now, beginning planning now, and construction starting summer of 2023 is what the proposal would be at this point. That can change, of course. There's a lot of coordination to do on exactly what the first phase entails and whether it can be done in a summer, probably not, most likely not. And whether that entails temporary moves of the kids, things like that. So there's a lot of coordination and details to look at, and that gets looked at with the construction team, or not construction team, but the architects, myself, administration, and maintenance, mostly taking a look at all the factors that go into that and weighing schedule and costs. For example, temporary housing, moving students versus not moving students, and you just take a look at all of those various items. But that's the schedule right now. And then Anderson modernization phase 2 cannot occur until we get that final state funding. So you see it's pushed out way out there into 27, 28, although it doesn't feel so far away anymore. We're in 21. So that and start of planning 23, 24, which is not that far away.
I guess my question would be to superintendent, if that will that Tremont retaining wall hold up till summer of 2022?
Yes, yeah, we, unless we have rain of biblical proportions, I guess. And the wind felt like that last night.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not so sure about the rain, but yeah, it's not. It is not that unsound that it would topple over, but it does long-term needs to be replaced.
Okay. And if something did come up, would we have funds to deal with it this coming summer, or would we really be oppressed?
Yeah, we could, right? Yeah,
Okay.
we certainly could. I mean, it's Measure Q dollars, right? So the revenue is there. It's a matter of getting designed and bid out. And Lee and I are scheduled to have a broader conversation about programming coming up and timeline and such with some of the other school site solutions folks. So that's a good reminder, include that in the conversation.
Question about that also, more than one community member, they come and they ask what's going on, what's money being spent on. And so more than one person has expressed to me their concern about that $500,000 for this retaining wall for a school that's all portables. I mean, is it a done deal that is in fact going to happen? Or is there talk of moving Tremont literally down the street to the vacant old C.A. Jacobs? So I guess just more of a status update.
Yeah, so until we design it and go out to bid and award a bid, it's not going to happen, right? I think it's an astonishingly large amount of money for something that will have no direct impact on the experience of students or staff. It's not even, an area that kids even have, if there's any access for them out there. And for those who don't know, this is on the perimeter of the campus. And it's just a wooden retaining wall that has aged about as well as I have over the years. So it's leaning, let's put it that way. And some portions of it are worse than others. So I can assure you, whatever we can do to minimize expense on that, we will do, because there's no bang for the buck on that kind of project. Yeah, and we have not, in terms of the C.A. Jacobs campus, we have not made any commitments on what we're going to do there. But, part of our interest is to move the alternative education program over there as well. They're currently housed in very, very old portables without any core facilities. So we'll see. But yeah, you can tell people, Julie, two things. One, there's no firm commitment to do that project. And two, they should voice their concerns about us doing that, either in this meeting or in a governing board meeting, or they can shoot an email even, right? Input matters, right? And if we don't hear from people, we're less able to make the right decisions. So
I would also add, Julie, that that came up when the Tremont administrative reconfiguration project started to get looked at by an architect, and that wall became an issue because of what DSA would say. So you should be very confident that we would minimize whatever we need to do, yet have the safety. If there's any safety issues, keep that in mind. But yes, I believe it got triggered by the administrative project. So the fact that we're downscoping that administrative project may lead us to either minimally do some wall things or not do it at all, or still have to do it. We will have to see how that goes. But yes, we would take that into consideration.
that's a good point.
And it's all on the part of the district. There's nothing with the builders. I mean, that's expired, I'm sure, a long time ago of the developers. Okay.
Yeah, and Julie, when people talk to you, remind them there's the public comment period at every school board meeting. That's what that's designed for. We're kind of an oversight committee. We review the actions of the school board, we review the financial statements, but we don't make the decisions for the district as to how they should spend money or what they should prioritize. People that want to have that voice need to express themselves in a school board meeting.
As I've aged too, I have less patience. And so that's kind of my pattern response. Like, say it to me, say it to the committee, come to the meetings. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay, any other questions on the timeline from committee members? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Okay, I don't see anybody. All right. This again was for information, so we are able to move on to the Wallace School Association contract.
Thank
revision.
you. Thank you. So this is kind of a housekeeping cleanup item. The district is using Wallace Cool and Associates ongoing for JKMS for testing and inspection services. They're a testing lab and they do the required tests that are needed on materials by the Division of the State Architect. It was determined that the original contract for this project had not gone to the board previously when it should have. It was an oversight. And so we're doing some cleanup to make sure these things the contracts are approved by the board and then seen by you as well. So this was back in February of 2019. It was approved in August 2019, but not taken to the board for approval at that point. So the board, this was taken to the board to be ratified at its November 19th, 2020 meeting, at which it was ratified by the board. And so we wanted to bring this to you. And it was a not to exceed amount. The original contract was $40,150.
We've seen a few of these in the past.
Correct. You see for what you didn't see was this original.
Yeah.
This was the original one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it looks straightforward. The only question I have, it talks about scheduling the inspections, and notice must be made 24 hours in advance. I assume you guys have not run into issues with the scheduling or anything like that. It's all worked out well.
No challenges at all, right?
It's
Yeah.
all good. Yeah. Wallace Cool is a very reputable firm locally. They do many, many, many school district projects and they do a good job.
Okay, committee members, any questions?
No.
All right. Open up to the public. Any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, this looks like it is an action item. So I will take a motion to approve this Wallace Cool expenditure as a valid measure Q item.
I approve the motion.
Second, please.
Georgette does something. And
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. So all in favor of approving this Wallace Cool expenditure as a valid measure Q item as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, I'm not sure about Gary. Were you thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay. All right, I think that passed unanimously. So we can move on to the next item. This is the Yuba Sutter Inspection Services.
Thank you. This item is, you've seen this vendor before, Yuba Sutter Inspection Services. They're our project inspector. A project inspector is required by the Division of the State Architect. And Yuba Sutter has been performing this role successfully. Because of the extension of the project that has happened, we're talking about the original JKMS, what he calls the Dixon Middle School, because back then that's what the contract stated. The JKMS original project. So there's a third extension that he had asked for $17,000 not to exceed. And this was previously approved at the December 17th, 2020 board meeting. And this is an action item too.
This would focus what on the windows and kitchen inspection?
No, this is the original project. If you see his quote, he's broken it out. It's been it's interesting how he breaks it out. But originally, way back when, Bob was at Yuba Sutter, was contracted, and back then we were calling it this Dixon Middle School project. So that's the one that we're talking about now, an extension of $17,000, and then the John Knight Middle School renovation project. To him, that's the window kitchen project. So he just calls them different things. But I can tell because I go by the DSA tracking number, the application number. So we keep it separate. And so we can tell, and he's asking for no changes on that one, but he's asking for this contract extension on this one.
Okay, I'm a little confused. So it's a contract extension, but you mentioned the original.
Yes, so this is a contract extension to the main renovation project.
Very good.
So
Committee member,
I have a quick question. Miss Lee, so in November, you presented an increase. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right. Apparently, I was looking at 2019 last time. Okay. So in November of 2020, there was a request for additional cost. I don't know, was it 33K?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay. And so now he's asking for additional. So what's the additional 17K for this time? I mean, it's for the same project, but I mean,
So
additional services for.
yeah, if you go back on the November one, he goes by months. So he has a cost per month, and you can see that went out only to a certain time, and now we're extending the project a little bit further. And so that's for the work that he's doing for the additional months. So the longer this project goes on, those costs happen. And then he also is there for the window and kitchen project, which he keeps separate.
Right.
Okay. That he shouldn't have spent anything on yet, maybe? Because now we're anticipating that to be March, right?
No, he's out there all the time. So he is inspecting the window and kitchen project. That's underway. That's been underway for several months.
Okay, but is the charge for the 23K on the window assumed to be completing in March, or?
You know, I'd have to go back and take a look at that original contract.
I'm certain that we'll have to extend his contract on.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to. Okay, I have a feeling it will be. That's why I want to
We
make
will.
sure.
Yeah, I can guarantee you that. So
Okay.
bring that to you. We'll probably bring that to you in March.
Okay. So, but for the DMS, this should be it. Is that
Yes, it
correct?
better.
Okay.
We hope so. Yeah, we hope so.
All right. No additional questions.
yeah, I'm looking at this, it's kind of hard to tell the dates that this is in effect. So,
So the previous one was projected, it was to December 31st. So this one is January 1st on.
okay.
Yeah.
And then when he uses up the money, he'll ask for another one.
Correct.
All right, I got it. Thank you.
So we're hoping that this, I'm hoping this takes care of it. Yeah.
Okay. Last call for committee member questions. I'll open to the public. Any questions from the public on this contract extension? Okay, seeing none. Close that. This is an action item, so I will take a motion to approve this U.S. Sutter inspection services as a valid Measure Q item.
I motion to approve it.
Thank you, Georgette.
Andrea's second.
Thank you, Andrea, for the second. All in favor of approving this as a valid Measure Q item, please say aye.
Aye.
Gary, good. Okay, that one passed unanimously. So we're done with that. We can move on to the big change order number 8.
So thank you. Change order 8, number 8 is in the total amount of $1,309,923.07. You see that there are lots of various items. Like always on every change order, there's numerous smaller items that get then consolidated into one change order. These include both what I would call district directed scope increase and changes, and also the unforeseen conditions. A lot of the major ones include the ceiling modifications to the gym, dry rot repair, flooring repair and replacement, The continued work that we're getting, we finally see the change order amount on the A wing admin area of the 2-hour wall, the infamous 2-hour wall. And mechanical work, we've got a new marquee sign coming in, continued HVAC work, and various district directed items. Also, this includes a contract extension to January 11th, 2021, which we've clearly passed. And so we can foresee on change order 9, hopefully the end date. So I'm sure Brian can answer a lot of questions on this. I can answer some on various items.
Okay, I guess the first one's obvious. There's nothing listed under the first item for cost, the new light poles. There's just no number there on my report.
All right, I don't, and there's no number on mine either. It may be that I don't know, Brian, if you know anything about that.
I'm trying to remember exactly, but it should be a no cost. I don't remember if we didn't do it or, yeah, I'd have to go back and double check that. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, so either just didn't get done or it was something within contract or something, yeah.
Along those lines, sorry.
Okay, and there's an item to relocate IDF in gym girls locker room. What's an IDF?
It's where network equipment is located, and that unit is a wall-mounted unit, and it was directly above one of the toilets in the restroom area of the locker room. So, not a good location.
Right.
I guess maybe Superintendent, help if you'd kind of walk us through
Some of the
how you make the decision of a district directed change.
Well, so I'll give you that one as an example, right? So that unit would have been fully operable and able to complete whatever tasks had been assigned to it in the location it was. But all it would take would be somebody to, a taller person to reach up and yank on that thing, or stand on the toilet and yank on it. So it was relocated to a place where it couldn't be grabbed by a student. So that's not an unforeseen circumstance. Technically speaking, you could make a little bit of a case, maybe that should have been noted. So it's district directed because we said we want to relocate that basically for the safety kind of reason.
Well, do you make the decision, or you go through with walk through with the school board, or how is that determined?
No, so that falls down. So the construction team discusses these together. Ordinarily, what's happening is that Burco is out there doing the work, and they will encounter something that poses a question or concern. In most cases, an RFI is filed. We review the RFI log every time. That's a request for information. So that question goes to the architect. We review the RFIs on a weekly basis in the owner-architect construction meeting. And things that need to be addressed with additional work, we talk about in that meeting and give the direction to continue or not to do it, or can we find the alternative. Those things then end up ultimately on the change order. I can assure you that everything, that those decisions are made on an ongoing basis. So we cannot wait until I bring things to the board or they come here. It would hold construction up enormously. So, and some of the larger ones are items that I will engage the governing board facility subcommittee in. Both Lee and Jim have supported those meetings throughout the project. And that was Luke Foster and Melissa Masita. Luke off the board now, so Lloyd McCabe is taking his spot. So big ticket items, we'd make sure that we talked about with at least that subcommittee membership prior to going ahead with those. So.
Okay, I guess the only item that kind of attracted my attention was looking at the new marquee sign. I'm kind of surprised to see that here. That would have been an obvious thing that should have been in the planning for John Knight Middle School, unless you were thinking about reusing the old marquee sign.
You know, there was some idea about reusing the old one. There's also some hope that we, even if we didn't reuse it, that we could yank out the existing one and put in an electronic board. And because of DSA and because of the type of marquees available now, it had to become a more expensive project. So, and then we decided let's get a contractor installed. That original marquee out there was put in when I was the principal on a volunteer basis by a gentleman who had a contracting company. So we probably were not fully compliant when that unit went in there. Well, no, we weren't fully compliant when that unit went in there. So we will have a fully up to code, inspected, properly footed, modern marquee there. So yeah.
Looking forward.
It also included the demolition of the existing one,
yeah.
and take away, and I'm not sure if that also, Brian, if the demolition of those old benches around the trees weren't included in that as well.
So on number 189, VCTB, what's that one for 62,000?
So let me just scroll down to that. You said 189.
Yep.
All right. So we had flooring issues. I believe this is what this is. Yes. So you see there are several. 186 has the VCTB, 187, 188, 189. So what we learned going through the project was that, so you're talking about a vinyl tile, the 12 by 12 floor tiles. And it turned out there was no vapor barrier, so the moisture could come up. In particular in A wing, there was A and C wings were the places where this was particularly an issue. We also had in A some hardwood floors, original hardwood floors, which looked terrific, but they had been sanded down and worn down to the point where the nail heads were starting to be higher than the wood, and so there was a safety issue there. So we did an extensive amount of floor work in A and C to both deal with the water vapor barrier and the safety issue really about the nails on the hardwood. So.
Lot of work on the floor. There was a lot of thinking that we could salvage some of the existing really wonderful old hardwood floors, and they were not salvageable in the end.
They were not. And you know, so A and C have a lot of new flooring. B, we were able to get by just replacing some tiles. So where we could keep flooring that was intact, we did, but yeah, those two wings, it was not possible.
So Miss Lee, I just have a general question. I know I asked this before, and I'm going to ask it again. I'm not sure if I got the answer, but there's got to be some E&O from architect. Your architect's not 100% accurate all the time. So are any of the PCOs or any change orders arriving from the PCOs from the architect errors and omissions at all?
There have been on previous change orders. I'd have to go back and talk to Jim to find out which ones. And then obviously there'd be no cost on that. And so I'd have to go back and look. And yes, architects are never 100% correct in their plans. There's never, as you know, there's never 100% correct set of plans. It is the job of Jim primarily Jim Bombachi, to negotiate that. And so whenever there is a case to be made for errors and omissions, he will make that case. And so, yes, that when that can be done, it's done. And then you'll see either a lower price than what it would have been, and we negotiate with the architects on their fees, or you see it doesn't appear at all as a cost. I'd have to go to see what any of the items are.
I think I'm just curious, when this project is done, I think I just want an overall, just a quick overview of what was, district directed versus truly unforeseen versus E&O. I mean, that's all that I really want to see. I want to see what this project ended up to be at the end.
Sure. And we
in
will,
terms of the additional cost.
Yeah, we'll do a final wrap up of that when we get there. And I agree, we need to do that, and we'll have the discussion here.
And then, it's every project's so unique, but it's great to have perhaps lessons learned sessions with, within your project team. Are you guys doing that so you can learn from, since, you're doing Anderson next or what, anything else that you can pick up from this project that you can maybe improve on for the next one?
Yeah, I'll speak to that first, George. Holy moly, have we learned. We started a project with a facilities director who moved on to another district before we had started swinging a hammer or anything else on the project. I think the biggest, it's probably the biggest takeaway for me. And Jim and Lee have been great teachers in so many regards for me with this project, because we do not have a facilities director now. I try to do that job as much as I can with the really outstanding support of Lee and Jim. It's the programming part at the front end that has to be done really, really well. And what I think if I wound back the tape, I would say we tried to fit this project to a budget instead of saying, what are the must-dos in this project? And Lee and Jim have helped really establish this idea. You start with the shell of the building and ensure the integrity of your roofs and your windows, and get into your other infrastructure issues, your electrical and plumbing. HVAC has to be up to speed. And you think about cosmetic is not a fair term, but finishes and such at the end. And we really, from the get-go, did not really have the expertise in-house. So that's a part of me to really look at this project and establish the proper priorities and make sure. So what have we done? We've added a whole bunch of scope, because things that should have been included at the start weren't. Roofs, windows, two really good examples of things we've spent a good chunk of money on. So we really benefited from the tutelage that we've gotten from School Site Solutions, and the fact that we're going to be continuing to work with them here over time as we figure out what to do with Anderson. And obviously we're not going to have as much money for that project as we wish. However, we are putting students and staff into the middle school project, which is much better than what we would have done if we'd kept to that initial budget. So I've learned a boatload. We'll continue to have the support of Lee and other members of the team moving forward. So, yeah, lots of lessons learned. Lots of lessons learned.
And yes, we do note the lessons learned. And I believe Gary, Mr. Riddle, also talked about that at a prior meeting and stressed the importance of that, which I totally agree with. And I agree with there have been ongoing lessons learned, as Superintendent Dolan talks about. I think overall, this is a project that is now a successful project, and had it stayed at the original budget, I don't think anybody would have been happy with it at all. I don't think it would have even been able to almost not, it'd be occupiable, but not a fun thing to move into. Yeah. So you never want a situation where you're asking people to do a big move from their existing school where they have everything there and it's the devil and you just go, okay, I could just do this. And teachers are resourceful, staff is resourceful. We know this because there's never enough money. And so to ask people to get up, pack their stuff, move to a new facility, you better make sure that they're getting a better facility. And there have to be benefits to it. I believe that what we have in JKMS provides that. I do. I seriously do.
And lastly, quick question for Superintendent Dolan. So is the district, do you guys have a plan in place or a program for capital renewal now that you've made all these improvements? And I'm not sure if all the systems been upgraded or not, but I mean, we have to really pay attention as to when they should be, the district should look into planning ahead as to when they need to be renewed or whatnot, because we don't want to wait, 20 years later when things something
No.
has to be done right away.
The preventative maintenance schedules and such have to and that's part of the turnover process with Burco, and tomorrow is the first of the trainings for our staff on systems and such. But yes, you have to we have to be able to take care of what we just spent all this money on.
Right? Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're getting a little bit off topic. So
I'm sorry.
Refocus this back on the change order 8. So if there are any specific questions on this from committee members. Okay, I'll open it up to the public for any comments or questions.
Gary is trying to, trying to make a comment. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, there's one other item I just like, says the AC startup number 226 on existing units, because I know we talked about another contract for the electric heating system last time. What's the difference between the two?
So if I may, Brian, so the Prop 39 work that Schneider Electric helped do and get done for the school district went so far. They got the new units up there, and really it was a matter of not being able to do complete startup on it since it was an unoccupied school and all the other changes hadn't happened at the school. So Burco needed to get in there, and we needed them to help do that startup and not just starting it up. It's not like turning on a key or something. It's doing the work that's needed to make sure that it's right. So they're doing the balancing. They're doing a lot of other work that is part of startup, even though it's on the existing units. So Schneider Electric was not contracted to do that. So now we have Burco doing it, which would be appropriate because they're now here with the school being done.
So this is kind of tied to that question Gary had, but eventually you guys are going to present GLUMAC's commissioning report, just an overview as to what it turned out to be.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, is committee done? All right, public comment. All right, I don't see any. I think we can move on. Oh, this is an action item. So I need a motion to approve change order 8 as a valid measure Q expenditure.
I would agree to approve it with a note that at the end of the project, I'd like to see again what I mentioned earlier, a summary of what's district directed versus unforeseen and what's E&O.
Will do.
Okay, I will accept that. Second, to approve change order 8 as valid measure Q expenditure with the notation as stated by Georgette.
I second.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Perfect, unanimous. Very good. Lee, let's move on to the music room quote.
Okay, so this last one is a vendor I've been working with. This is music department / music room furniture and equipment. I worked extensively with Mr. Russo, who's the music department chair and teacher, and worked with him since February of 2020. Actually, he was on the committee and the original furniture and equipment committee made up of staff. Then he and I walked the site. He looked at the room, got lots of good input. The process was, this is how you get the good input from the staff. And we talked about all the things that he would like versus all the things that we could do. And for example, if you've been in the music room, it's a fabulous room, actually. It looks fabulous and it is fabulous. But what we didn't do was rip out all the existing shelving. So Steve Russo said, yeah, I understand. We're gonna use the existing shelving to house all the musical instruments. So things like that. And I have to say, again, it was a real joy to work with him because he is a really down-to-earth person that understands there's a budget. And that was really good. He understood that. So this item is with Wenger. Wenger is out of Minnesota. They provide most of school district music room furniture and equipment throughout the country, actually. And California is no exception. So Steve provided me with a list of the things that he wanted. And this is the, you see the items and the things, it has mostly to do with the conductor and the teacher, a lot of his stuff. And also there's the music stands, so 75 music stands. The new chairs, student chairs, were provided by School Specialty. And they are called music chairs because they're dark black, good for performances, things like that. As well as the dolly for those chairs. So on this one, it's $7,817.40. And we would ask for approval on this. And this was, since this meeting was moved, this would have been on January 20th, and then the next day approved by the board or considered by the board at their board meeting. So the timing would have been correct or, optimal, but now it's here and it was approved by the board on January 20th. So I'd ask for your approval. I'll take any questions.
Okay, I guess the question is music stands. I assume there were plenty of music stands at CA Jacobs. Why do we need new music stands, 75 of them?
They're in pretty bad shape. The music stands over at CA Jacobs, like much of the furniture over there, just old, outdated, not in good condition, damaged, needing repair, not totally functional. And so we bought new stands. Same with the chairs. They're chairs over at CA Jacobs, but we didn't bring over the orange 1970s chairs.
That, I've been to those concerts. I didn't question that.
Yes, yeah. So, but what I'm saying is, yes, there was careful consideration by both the teacher and the committee and the team about things, and this applies to the entire school. What to keep that we could make do with, and what to bring over, and what to buy new. And that was the entire process that we did. And the music stands, it was determined that we needed new ones. That's why they're on here.
So were those music stands the old wire ones, or were they the, you know, thick black ones?
No, they're the thick black ones, but they've just been there for years, decades,
Okay.
decades.
Yeah, banged up and just, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's it.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? Seeing none. Any questions from the public? Seeing none. Okay, this is a action item. So I will entertain a motion to approve this quote from Winger Corporation for the music room as a valid Measure Q expenditure.
I'll make a motion to approve for the
Thank
music
you,
room.
Julie.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Georgette. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, wonderful, unanimous. Excellent. So that concludes the items as presented by Lee Coop.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being flexible in your schedule and showing up tonight.
Certainly.
Appreciate your time, your organizational skills and efforts so we can move through these items in a quick and efficient manner. So
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Lee, for always being here and being so helpful.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
We'd be sunk without you, Ms. Coop. So
Thank you very much.
we would.
So we're ready to move on to officers and subcommittee reports, and the website is up first. I have a few items, if I can now find my notes. Here we go. So for almost a whole year, we have been using the Granica system to post our meetings on the Dixon Unified District website, exactly as they are done for school board meetings. The Granica system does a nice job of capturing the agenda, serves as a nice template for doing the minutes, and then all of the backup items can be attached under the agenda item. So that system has worked well. We still have our website, which has not been worked on much. I have gotten with Mark and Alex, and we've made some changes to it. So if someone goes to that as the initial source, they now see all of our meetings for 2021 listed there as the schedule. There is a hot button that will direct you to the Granica site for current meetings, so that if you are concerned about things being posted at a proper time, that should not be an issue anymore. I have updated the CBOC member list and email addresses, and that brings me a question, or points me to a question for Robert Sanchez. Robert, have you gotten your CBOC email set up or not?
No, I have not. I need to give it a roll.
Oh, you're kidding. Okay.
Okay, so you can go to Google and work through the process of getting a CBOC dedicated email address, so we don't have to send things to your work site. That would be helpful. If you have trouble, was it Julie that helped set that up, or Andrea? I can't remember.
Yeah, I did them real quick. I just basically, if you use the same, like the string, I think we used first name dash, you can see what all the emails are. So they just.
Right, but remember we had another Robert before.
Oh, that's true.
And we had a Robert S because that didn't work for him. So Robert Sanchez will have to be a little bit.
Yeah, a little more creative.
With the name. So yes, I'd appreciate if you two would work together and get that email assigned, and I can get that posted onto our website.
Okay.
Some questions on this. So I'm happy to work with Mark and Alex. I have all the documents, so I can tell Alex what to do with them. But in the past, on our old website, we did it by date. So you would see the meeting date and then all of the backup items were listed. You go to another meeting date and then all the backup items were listed there. That's one way to do it, but the other way to do it is under category. You could have minute meetings and go to a box titled minutes and then click to see what set of minutes you want to review, or budget items as we went through tonight. You could do it that way, budget items, and then go through that, or contracts, go through that, as opposed to doing it in that original chronological method. So I would like some feedback from my committee members on how to do that, because Alex, if I give it to him bit by bit over the next couple of months, we can really have a nice website. Alex can't sit down and just devote days to doing it all at once. It's going to have to be, bit by bit, because he's slammed with, critical needs to make sure our students receive proper instruction. So I don't want to overwhelm it, but I do need some feedback from you all on this.
So I guess that's my question. I was thinking about this earlier because that's why we're in this meeting tonight and not a week ago, because we were threatened with misdemeanor because some of the documents couldn't be found. And
I was unhappy about that. The superintendent was unhappy about, because the format we have used has been the same format for the past year, and it's the exact same format we superintendent uses for the school board meeting. So, if someone was having trouble, a simple email to either superintendent or me would have solved it. So that whole threat thing was unnecessary and disappointing.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess though my question is, the website in general, Dixon Unified in general, is not the easiest one to navigate. It hasn't been for 14 years. And you talk about Alex's time. Is there not enough money for staffing to pay someone to make this website better? I know that the first year of his employment was spent correcting ADA compliance. Because yeah.
So I can address Julie, and I agree with you. We implemented a new website design. It's at least 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5, something like that. It is not successful. So we're currently working with, he's actually an employee in another school district who has an outside business. So we're currently working with him on if you'd like to go look at Venetia Unified's website, it's a nice, clean, easy to use site. So using the gentleman who built that site and some of his colleagues that he uses in his side business to give us a completely fresh looking, updated, different structured website, because ours stinks. So
that's fantastic news. And that was going to be my other point, was let's not reinvent the wheel. Like I have to go to other school websites all the time for my job. And I used Vallejo Unified as an example. Poor Vallejo, but I tell you what, they have a fantastic website. So, there's so many surrounding districts. So this is music to my ears about hearing that, bring in, or like the Dixon High Athletic Association, we paid for a website, $2,000, I think it is, for 3 or 5 years. And the sports leads to that. And it's fantastic and it's user-friendly. And so this is great news.
Yeah. Necessary for sure. No argument.
So do we want to invest time in the current one or just wait, Brian?
I'm getting a project plan from this gentleman. Should have had it actually already, but some things broke down in his district that have kept him from having the spare time to do this. So let me inquire, Tad, and then I can make some contact with you. My sense is not to invest a huge amount of time. However, it's important that the appropriate relevant documents be up. for people to be able to check out.
So it is kind of at that level. The appropriate documents are there, and I'll just wait to see what you say regarding additional improvements. So that being said, I think we will wrap up the website discussion, maybe target it for more high-profile discussion at our next meeting. Okay, board member comments on this? Public comments, please. Okay, seeing none. Contracts. Georgia, do we have any contracts for review?
No, not really, but I'll get started on the report this month sometime. And I understand that we're trying to issue it for May. Let me see, when's our next meeting?
March.
March. Okay, so maybe I'll shoot something out as a draft to everybody by end of February, sometime in February. Take a look at.
That would be excellent. I would really like to get this done. Have a quick review at the March meeting and then have the one finalized by May. That would be nice. Okay. Public comment on the contracts. Okay, seeing none. Audit. Shouldn't be anything for the audit committee. We got a clean review by James Marta today, so there's no follow-up on that. Okay, so that takes it to the next agenda items for future meetings. So we've already talked about the website. That will probably be a big one for our next meeting. Other than that, I don't have anything else, but I'm sure we will hear the normal update from Lee Koo.
If I could suggest a couple perhaps for your consideration.
Okay.
We need to talk about members of the committee. I think we're getting to a point. I know Gary had previously said he was thinking about stepping away, and I haven't looked at the bylaws and noted how long people have been here. Are we running into issues of people are going to get termed out or not? I know, Ted, you mentioned last week about your time as chair. We've been vacant a seat for a long time now. So I just wonder if the group is interested in having a conversation around membership. If that's your pleasure, I would be open to that. And then the other thing I would respectfully ask if we can discuss is the potential of moving to a different, so we're on the third Wednesday of every odd month is our meeting calendar. And what that does is it puts us right next to board meetings tomorrow night. The real issue happens the week before as we're preparing and then posting 2 agendas. And so the timing of the 2 meetings together just creates some workflow issues around here. So, we were working, and eventually we'll get to go back to the council chambers and do this in person, and it'll be nice to see everybody and meet, Robert, do a meeting in person, all that good stuff. So I wonder if there's any interest in having a conversation just about identifying an alternative night, whether it's in the same week of the month or whether it is something different, just to help kind of the load. Cicely and Rose, and Cicely in particular, who works on both agendas, it just ends up being really challenging sometimes to get everything put together and out on time.
Yeah, we can certainly have that discussion.
Well, we could also talk about frequency too, because I think we're meeting more often now. because of all that's going on, and the project is coming, the major project is coming to an end.
It is we're going to see a big slowdown. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's something, I mean, we talked about meeting only quarterly, and then some committees only meet, what, twice a year? But there was the need to meet more often and kind of catch up. But as we get caught up and the projects slow down, that's something we could even reduce the amount of time that we're meeting.
So excellent. We will put that on the agenda for next month and we can hash that out then.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
So we have a date for the next meeting?
yeah, it'll be March 3rd, third Wednesday at 6:30.
March 17th.
Got it. Okay. Just confirming. Yep.
Yep. And then going forward after that, we can change it if that is the wish of the committee.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Folks, appreciate your time. We accomplished quite a lot. We did it in a little over 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is really good. We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
All right.